Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this white, blue and green or bant colored mill control deck, and the reason to splash green in an otherwise mostly blue-white control deck is for Glacierwood Siege, a 3-mana enchantment. We're often going for the teamer mode, saying whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, target player mills 4 cards. So the goal is to get the siege down and then protect it with our counter spells, keep the board clear with our removal, and then slowly mill the opponent to death. Once they draw from an empty library, we win the game. And besides the siege, we also have 3 copies of a River Churn Monument to mill the opponent. Can pay 1 mana, tap it to mill for 2. Can technically mill ourselves as well, but don't have a strong reason to in this deck. And then at some point we can exhaust the monument, and that will mill them equal to the number of cards already in their graveyard. So if they have more cards in graveyard than in their library, we just win the game on the spot. So then being able to set up the monument with our siege to already mill them a little bit beforehand can also be very powerful. And another reason to splash green is for Heritage Reclamation, which is a card I find myself putting in more and more decks, even in the main deck, since it's a great answer to the various graveyard combo decks. Can exile an Oculus or an Omniscience before they get reanimated. Can also answer artifacts and enchantments, so it's also a main deck answer to a Steel Cutter or other problematic artifacts and enchantments. And if it's not a great matchup for Reclamation, we can always just cycle it for 2 mana and maybe trigger the siege in the process. Then we also have the full set of Opt to trigger the siege, to scry 1 and draw. We've got some cheap creature removal with Elspeth's Smite. At 2 mana there's Get Lost, can hit creatures, enchantments or planeswalkers, as well as a Ride's End to exile a tapped creature for just 2 mana. And then we have several counter spells, 2 negates for non-creature spells, and 3 Steps Ahead is also quite versatile, can draw and discard with it too, but we can also copy our River Churn Monument with it. So now with 2 monuments, if we can exhaust them back to back, we might be able to mill the opponent out completely. And then we've got multiple board wipes to keep the board clear against creature decks, 4 Day of Judgment as the cheapest option, and then 1 Sunfall, which can also exile those creatures and leave an incubator behind, and then 2 copies of Beza, which can maybe pad our life total against aggro, make some fish tokens to buy time, and that's a great way to force the opponent to overextend into our other board wipes, so those also have good synergy. And then the mana base, we're keeping things pretty simple. Fabled Passage with a couple basics to search up. In a pinch, you can also use the Siege to let you replay lands out of the graveyard, so then you can maybe get back your Fabled Passage as well if you need to hit your land drops, and you might also end up milling yourself just to enable the replay lands from graveyard mode, but for the most part we want to be milling the opponent. And then we also have a mix of Surveil lands and Verge lands, which also play well with each other. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. We have a reasonable hand. Sweeper, Counterspell, and then a win condition. Stock up seems fine. So what are we up against? Blue-white. Is it Omniscience combo maybe? Still trying to resolve the monument for now. And then we'll see if we need to keep up our counterspell. I see. Synthesizer, so an artifact deck. Yeah, Synthesizer is scary, since that's going to require multiple sweepers to keep contained. I don't think I can tap out for stock up. Especially if they have United Battlefronts, I would have to counter it. Smithy might already be worth countering here. Would make 2 pretty large tokens, so then I'm immediately forced to Day of Judgment. And we want to take a slightly slower approach if possible. Now I can play Siege, mill with Monuments. And then stock up will mill 4. Can Day of Judgment mill 4, so then we're starting to make a little bit of progress. Of course, Perilous Snare can exile those permanents. Although we can eventually get our stuff back if we find the Reclamation. Sunfall, another board wipe. Alright, time for stock up. And then I guess we've milled Spell Pierce, so I should play around that too. I'll leave up green mana, please. Alright, Besa buys me a little bit of time. Might want Portico since Smite doesn't do much. Voyage home, draw 3, gain 3. Pretty good. And a repurposing bay can get another synthesizer. Yeah, that's pretty scary. Another monument. So I'm forced to already wipe the board or play Besa. That could still keep me alive. And I guess it's Besa, tap land, activate monuments. Also got our treasure. Get Lost doesn't answer artifacts. So yeah, Besa is good in forcing the opponent to overextend into our board wipe to an extent. So now they might get another synthesizer. Yep. So now our only hope is that they don't have a ton of ways to keep enabling synthesizer turn after turn. But with a Voyage Home drawing 3, that's probably not going to work out for us. Iron Crag is next. So do I chump both? Do I chump one? Probably chump both, since I'm unlikely to survive next turn if I don't cast a sweeper. Since they can just repurposing bay a removal spell. And our opponent seems to be aware of the fact that we might have some board wipes, so they're not playing out too many things at once. Reclamation can unlock our siege, or we could blow up a synthesizer. Those are kind of the options. If I get siege back, it's only temporary, since Bay can eventually get another snare. So we also want to think about exhausting the monuments as soon as possible. Maybe get back siege, then I can still Day of Judgment, and then activate. Can pay for Spell Pierce in this whole process. And then I just need to exhaust monuments as soon as possible. So we can pay for Spell Pierce thanks to the treasure. Do you have a second Spell Pierce? You do not. So I don't get to use monuments. Next turn they might remove the monument before I can exhaust it. 29 cards remain. And now Battlefront. Find Snare. So they can remove both of my permanents if they want to, assuming there's a snare left in their deck. Sunfall can clear the board once again. But I need 2 turns where I can exhaust monuments, which may not be happening now. Yep. Well, I guess I can at least survive. And then I don't think I play Monument, since they're just gonna exile it once again, unless, let's see. Yeah, there's only 1 Perilous Snare in Graveyard. So then we want to wait, and then I may as well Sunfall. Can also animate the token if needed. So if I play Monument and Exhaust, that's still only 20 cards getting milled. So we need a little bit more. Opponent activating for more Revolt to keep digging. Cryptic Coat. That's fine. So I'm once again forced to Day of Judgment. And they're going to use the Bay as well. Curious to see what else they get. Another synthesizer. Okay. So now how many cards? 21 in graveyard, 22 in library. So we're getting very close to Monument being lethal. So if I can Day of Judgment and then turn after Monument Exhaust, we might get there. So I got pretty lucky to have drawn all these sweepers. Possible our opponent found a negate with Fomori Vault, but they did not. Alright, so one more turn, assuming nothing happens to their graveyard. Play Monument Exhausts. Definitely don't want to play it into the Repurposing Bay. Potentially finding a solution. And then, yeah, Cryptic Code's a very nice way to re-trigger Synthesizer turn after turn. But maybe we stole it here. 20 cards in library, 22 in graveyard. And Braided Net doesn't change that right now. Can animate here. Just as a distraction. Play Monument. Can pay for Spell Pierce and still exhaust. Did we get there? Activate Braided Net, that's not gonna stop it. And yeah, that's an empty library right there. Cryptic Code back to hand. No attacks. And our opponent explodes. Also, I guess checking with Braided Net, had they been able to transform it into the Kipu, yeah, it still draws cards, so even if you put it back in your deck, you're still drawing more than you're putting back, so that would not have helped. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Missing white mana, but we do have double stock up to help. And then I still need to enable the Verge to cast the Siege or the Reclamation. So this one's not ideal, but any dual lands, especially the Surveil lands, are going to be a big help. I'll try. Opponent's blue-white. So could be Omniscience combo, in which case Reclamation can answer Abuel's Awakening. We're about to find out. Definitely just opt, hoping to find a land. 3 Steps is one of the better cards if we're up against Omniscience combo, but I can't afford to keep it. Alright, so this makes green. Not that I need to keep up Reclamation right now. So is there any reason to play Fabled Passage right now? I don't think so. Can wait. So an important turn coming up. Opponent taps out for stock up. So I can tap out for Siege. Since they won't have Omniscience in graveyard yet. And no way for them to get it there and combo off in one turn. So then I can resolve the Siege. And then, yeah, hopefully find more counter spells afterwards. Day of Judgment, not particularly useful. Possible they have Get Lost for my enchantment, but most Omniscience lists don't have it. Well, I guess I take that back. Alright, that makes sense. They weren't Omniscience, they were just Jeskai control. So that's a whole different animal. So now Reclamation's still may be useful if they try and get something back with Shiko. So I'm hesitant to tap out for stock up. Although I guess if they get back their own stock up, how bad is it? I mean, it's not ideal. Yeah, let's just pass. That way next turn I can stock up and still keep up Reclamation. And then don't need to fetch since I'm happy to draw lands, so we don't need to thin out the deck. But then now I can stock up and at least keep some interaction available. And then probably want another stock up and a land. So if we're playing a control mirror match of sorts, the mill deck is definitely at an advantage. Since the game naturally is going to drag out, cards will end up in the graveyard. But it is possible our opponent's got more counter spells. So if I stock up now, I'll have to discard to hand size. So I don't think I'm in a hurry. Just keep up a bunch of counters. Might want to play Beza while we still get a treasure out of it. And then Reclamation might be cycled now. Getting rid of stock up, should they go for Shiko to get something back. I'll throw a base out there. Still makes a treasure. Totally fine if they fight over it. Alright, that's perfect. Opponent's gonna counter draw. Don't need to negate back, we want to protect our win conditions. And maybe stop the opponents. So, can surveil. Lands are useful, but also want to dig towards more of my win conditions. 3 monuments and 2 sieges remaining. And rediscover the way. That's fine. So now we can stock up. Find double 3 steps. Well, our hand is basically all counter spells, which is not a bad place to be for this type of matchup. This is also where lands with activated abilities can come in handy, as a way to spend your mana end of turn once you don't need to worry about the opponent resolving some big threat at sorcery speed. Alright, so we can try and pick a fight over this siege. Of course, picking a fight is better if it's already on the battlefield. I could wait for maybe a slightly better window, but I could try and cast it now. The main issue being our opponent might have Get Lost or a way to get back Get Lost, so then we might not get a ton of use out of it. But if I fight over it with negates, the resulting counter-spell battle will already mill the opponent for a bunch. So let's try it. Alright, that resolved. So, mill for 4. Could see Get Lost end of turn, which I'll negate. And that's already going to mill for 4, so this is kind of where we want it to be. Picking a fight with the enchantment in play already. So even if they do end up destroying it, it's already done its job. See a bit more from their deck. So yeah, they might have some dragons in there. Shiko, of course, comes to mind. And they're gonna Get Lost again. Yeah, I could negate, and then what happens? Opponent maybe lets it go. Next turn, untaps, cast Shiko on Get Lost to destroy it. That's okay by me. And then by negating, I can still leave up 2 mana to pay for Exhale if they don't have a dragon in hand. Alright, opponent exhales, revealing Shiko. So pretty much all according to plan. So yeah, opponent's got 16 cards in graveyard. So now if we were to find a monument, we can already do some damage. Shiko gets back their enchantments. We're still at 20. So a long way to go. And there's a monument. So quick glance, 16 cards in graveyard. Ideally I can exhaust to win on the spot. So I don't think I cast it yet. Might be a fine stock up turn. Finding Get Lost and a land. Don't necessarily want to shuffle Day of Judgment back. Could Get Lost their enchantments. Might just Day of Judgment Shiko next turn. Could also try and copy the monument, of course, but that's going to require the opponents being tapped out. I'll take 4. Good end of turn, destroy Shiko in case they had another one in hand. Stock up, I'll let resolve. Yeah, if we can pick a fight in their end step and mostly tap them out, we can maybe set up monument copied with 3 steps. Although we also have to watch out for Brotherhood's End destroying artifacts. Alright, so we've got 18 cards in graveyard. Opponent's got a lot of cards in hand. Still tempted to play the monument here. Can protect it. Although I guess I would be one short of double 3 steps and exhaust. So maybe I should have waited one more turn. Another 3 steps. So then I may as well counter draw now. Unless they've got a spell pierce. Alright, and then Day of Judgment can probably go. So I don't get to exhaust the monuments, and they do get an opportunity to maybe destroy it, but I can mill 2 at least. And a Regent cast, so they can still try and bounce the monuments, and then counter it on the way down. No, they're just going for the map tokens. Okay. And now Bezas, our opponent, seems in trouble. 20 cards in library. I did just discard my only sweeper, but we're still at 16. And I guess, yeah, by milling 2, an exhaust will do it. So yeah, the game went pretty much as expected. The opponent just has more death cards in their deck than we do. And eventually the mill cards are going to get them. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Still need to find our mill engines. For now, we'll see if we need green right away or if we can afford to get like an island. Opponents milling over cease desist. Can actually answer artifacts and enchantments. I'll get an island, so if we draw tap land I can still opt. Now our green mana's taken care of. So black-white control. Maybe a Catramos control deck, so I don't think we'll need Day of Judgments. Siege is nice, although not confident that it's gonna stick around for long. But we can try. And then we will be milling instead of replaying lands. Although sometimes can be useful if you've got Fabled Passage in circulation. And yep, there's Catramos. So, yeah, don't have too many ways to exile it, since it's also indestructible. But we'll start with stock up and take it from there. A Right's End would do it. And then I probably want 3 steps. Maze Mind Tome is acceptable. Slow card draw plays into our mill plan. So I can cast a 5 mana Right's End on Catramos if needed. But for now we'll keep up 3 steps, can counter draw. Still nothing in exile. Soul Search would make me discard, so I guess we'll counter draw. While milling with the Siege. Okay, the Monument is excellent. Probably don't need Reclamation, although it is an answer to the Tome. Yeah, maybe Smite's actually worse. So I can Reclamation now. Milling with Siege. I'm somewhat tempted to wait to play Monument until I can exhaust it right away, in case our opponent has another Cease and Desist to blow up artifacts and enchantments. Although I guess they wouldn't be able to do that next turn yet. So it could be safe enough to play the Monument. So we can mill for 2, mill for 4, and then exhausting should get us most of the way there. Alright, opponent did have Allegiance to Ashes, sadly, so that will work. Catramos draws. So now we're back to just Siege. And they might exile that one soon too. Probably worth it to keep up mana so I can both Right's End and Reclamation. Now Deadly Cover-Up. Okay. So probably going for 3 steps or stock up. Could let that happen. Opponent also just exiled cards from their graveyard. They could have exiled their entire graveyard if they wanted to make a future Monument less effective. So lots of interesting decisions here. Exile a card from a graveyard, so nothing's being targeted. Okay, we'll let that happen. And then what do they extract? They went with 3 steps, so no more counter spells. They could have Kaya as a win condition, which would make sense. And then I guess now Catramos is also active, or close to. Don't really mind our opponent drawing more cards, helps our mill plan. So could have maybe cast a Reclamation before exiling Catramos. 21 cards remain, so still a long way to go. So we don't have to exile anything. Opponent's going to discard to hand size. So if I were to draw another Monument, we just win on the spot. Opt's not bad. I think I do Surveil first, just to make it more likely that we draw something useful. And there's a Monument. Have enough mana to play and activate. So that should do it. So yeah, I think our opponents maybe should have collected their entire graveyard as evidence. But it's not an intuitive play to make. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with Keeper. A fine control hand. Facing a red and Mako. So it could be some sort of Oculus deck. For now, archive. 3 steps may not be what I need, since I'm probably just tapping out for stock up and then wiping the board. So then it's going to be tricky to keep up a counter spell. Want to find my mill effects. Could also be a pirate deck for all we know, since that's a lot of basic lands for a Jeskai Oculus deck. So then sweepers should be good. For now, I can potentially fetch forest and then still cast opts. And Kiora. Okay. Enables Mako. And it is an Oculus deck after all. So maybe they're just missing the white to reanimate it. Sunfall should be effective, but we'll see how it lines up. Because it's possible we'll have to Sunfall before they bring back the Oculus. Monument is the type of card I would need. I guess I can keep it since we can stock up to hit my land drops for Sunfall. So let's see where we're at. Day of Judgment plus a land. Although Reclamation's also a way to stop Oculus from being reanimated. I think I still prioritize lands. And then I gotta discard to hand size. Might be the Reclamation. Since we can just wipe the boards twice to deal with Oculus. If they keep up Spell Pierce, we might be in trouble. So our opponent is definitely playing white. Says no to Shiko. And yeah, would not have survived to cast Sunfall. Let's hope they don't have a counterspell. That works. Because they're doing some self-milling, Monument can be a double-edged sword, but they're also filling the graveyard, which could be helping us. And they're just gonna cast an Oculus. Alright, so I need to Sunfall right away pretty much. Beza could also gain some life, but I think Sunfall's still the better solution. That works. And Shiko was the face-down card. Alright, so could stock up, look for 3 steps ahead as a hard counter. And if not, we might still go for Monument. Found 3 steps and Day of Judgment. So now I'll keep up my 3 steps ahead, I think. Although since we drew Day of Judgment, I have another answer to an Oculus. Ideally, we can counter and copy Monuments. But that's gonna take a bit more mana. Not in a hurry to play Beza. And Malcolm end of turn. That's still acceptable. Not the fastest clock. If they play another big creature, next turn is just gonna be Day of Judgment with negate backup. Mako we can block with Beza. And then end of turn, start with a Monument activation. Let's see, this is 4 mana to copy the Monument, so yeah, we can start here. And then copy the Monument for 4 mana. Untap. Play Beza. Do we get a treasure? I guess we have the same number of lanes, but that's fine. We'll make fish tokens and gain life, so we can postpone the Day of Judgment. Get to keep up 3 steps, and then if I don't need to cast it, we get to keep milling with 2 monuments now. So we're just trying to buy time. Opponent's got, I guess, only 5 cards in graveyard since they cleaned it up by casting the Oculus. So that does make the exhaust on monument less effective. Torture Tower discarded. Mako grows. And a Scholar is also acceptable. So yeah, we're getting close to casting the Day of Judgment already. Opponent discarding another Oculus. And helping hand to get it back. That's fine, we're gonna Day of Judgment here anyway. So yeah, it was a Jeskai Oculus all along. Maybe just with a budget mana base. Make sure to leave up Opt. We are helping them by milling the Harmonize cards. Another 3 steps seems fine. Opponent will manifest, which just helps us in milling more cards. Could attack, but I'm not gonna waste everyone's time. Cast the Day of Judgment. Pass with 3 steps up. And now we should be able to close it out pretty quickly. Tarkir Light Shatter is pretty scary, since they can potentially get something back out of the graveyard. So I will fight over it. Even though Smite is an answer. And then now they've got 18 cards in graveyard. So can't quite exhaust twice, but we should be able to get there next turn. Helping hand back Tarkir. That one we can negate. And then exhaust, exhaust. This deck can be pretty exhausting to play against. Alright, let's just do that now. I guess I could still top deck a helping hand technically. Alright, now we can do it. Could have activated the other one first. That was technically correct. To mill even more with the exhaust. But yeah, the game's over. Alright, GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have a Keeper. Missing our mill effects, but a fine control hand to start out. Facing turn 1 talent, so maybe a Pixie deck. Beza is pretty good against them. And the Monument I'll keep. Fear of Isolation, pick up talent. Could keep up Smites. So we don't take too much damage off Fear of Isolation. And then the Flyer's a bigger threat, since we can maybe stabilize on the ground with Beza. So now could be convinced to play Monument and activate, as opposed to keeping up 3 steps, since we might want to copy the Monument with 3 steps later. And then next turn Beza. If they were to make me discard, I think I keep lands, discard Get Lost. But seems like they're maybe just gonna pass here. Possible they have Town Ain't big enough to bounce the Monument and the talents. But then they could have triggered Prowess. So they might just be blue-black. Play Beza, which, if it doesn't get countered, would also make fish tokens and draw a card, in addition to gaining 4. So now we're pretty well set up. They have a Drowner, so it is a build with Kaito, most likely. So then Get Lost could maybe answer the Planeswalker. Hopeless Nightmare makes me discard. I did just say I was probably discarding the Get Lost. I think I can still get behind that. And then 3 steps, copying Monuments seems like it could be great too. Although now, I guess 3 steps needs to go. Take 6. So it's gonna be Siege plus Monument. Could also stock up without playing Siege first, just to get the 2 cards. Yeah, maybe that's still worth it, since they're likely to make me discard more. So then Negate's fine. Can keep that up, and grab an Opt as well, as a way to trigger the Siege. So we can keep up Opt and Negate. If we don't need to negate, we can Monument end of turn. Opponent looking at this town in big enough. Seems worth countering. Take 4. Get to untap with Beza now at least. I think I do play a Siege. And then I can opt now to try and hit my land drop. Could also start milling myself to replay lands out of the graveyard, which was an option. But yeah, we'll try this. Opt, mill for 4. And take the lands. Play Monuments. Hope they don't take my stock up. And then now we can mill pretty quickly with 2 Monuments to exhaust. We've got 3 blockers in case they try Ninjutsu Kaito. And nowhere to run, can shrink down Beza. Alright, so we're in a bit of danger, but now Sunfall to the rescue. Mill for 4. And can still mill with 1 Monument. So we've got 12 cards in graveyard. So now the main concern is Nightmare burning us out. Down in big enough, gonna bounce Talent plus Nightmare. Yep. So stock up is gone. Still have other ways to spend our mana. So we can exhaust at instant speed. So I guess for now pass a turn. Negate should keep me alive, and then I can mill exhaust, untap exhaust, and that should be game. I guess the alternative was just to exhaust and keep up negates, but it's not like they're gonna deal 3 to me at instant speed. And then now I can still exhaust, which will easily get the remaining cards. And there's a quick peek at their library, in case you were interested. So yeah, Kaito was among the cards. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a reasonable hand. Can fetch islands early. Still need to find our mill effect. Okay, opponent with an encampment, so this could be kind of a token control deck. Which could prove to be a tough matchup. Since cards like Urabrask's Forge while we can try and counter them or destroy with reclamation, they do line up pretty favorably against sweepers. It's going to be a sharpshooter. Okay, so yeah, still more of a tokens deck, but they might be more willing to commit creatures to the board. So then I probably need to prioritize double white for Day of Judgment over double blue for 3 steps. But we get to have both now. So I'm okay if they commit a few creatures to the board. It's mainly the non-creature spells we need to worry about. For now, take 1. And another sharpshooter resolves. And yeah, given that we have triple Day of Judgment, I'm not opposed to casting 1 now, since the damage could add up quickly otherwise. If they do resolve an artifact or enchantment, we can retroactively blow it up. It's going to be Sharpshooter into Nesting Bot. Alright, we can run it back. See what's on top first. Stock up to refuels, great. So another 2 for 1, although this time they have a leftover token. And Anim can immediately trigger. Now I can maybe get lost Anim and then stock up. Finding Beza, a land and Sunfall are all great. So assuming this turn we get lost Anim, would be nice to hit my land drop. And then I think Beza over Sunfall. And land I should probably keep. Yeah, Beza just forces the opponent to overextend even more. Now Delny would trigger Anim twice, I believe. So then we just get lost Anim. Beza's still a fine play. Opponent's likely playing Arabella as well, which has good synergy with Delny. So we can play Beza, keep up 3 steps. And that should buy us some time. The fish tokens can still block. Could even 3 steps copy Beza at some point. That's okay. The artifacts we can also destroy with reclamation. And I'll let them explore. Another sharpshooter. Are they going to keep it? They are. So they must have more token makers in hand. We still need to find our mill effects. And sure, we'll double block the token here. And Arabella shows up as expected. So again, could blow that up with reclamation, but opponent's going all out. So I think we're happy to Day of Judgment. Do I still keep reclamation as an answer to artifacts or enchantments? They probably have the 3 mana pump the team, deal damage. So then that could be a nice answer to it. But I also need to find my mill effects, so I'm tempted to just cycle this. Find another sweeper. And then I guess I could attack for 4, but it's really not going to matter since we don't win with damage. So Day of Judgment, authorize Arabella. Could deal a ton of damage with Delny next turn. Still have our counter up. Sharpshooter's acceptable. Really want to counter draw with 3 steps now. Okay, so may need to Day of Judgment again. Especially now that our opponent went all out. So yeah, we got pretty lucky to draw all these sweepers. I think we found pretty much all of them. Even bottomed the Sunfall. so couldn't have asked for more. Still want to opt in case we find our siege, which we did. So now I can siege and then Day of Judgment. And then next turn we get to keep digging with 3 steps. And the opponent is packing a couple enchantments at least with a red-white siege. Voice of Victory is very good, means we cannot counter with 3 steps anymore. So now I'm forced to 3 steps in my turn. I could Surveil first, or I could discard the land. So, yeah, this is awkward. I guess I just draw and discard. And yeah, negate doesn't do anything for as long as they control voice. So I'll Surveil and then redraw with Reclamation. Get rid of the lands. And don't think this matters. Mill for 4. So we're halfway through deck. Opt's not bad, need to cast it now. Mill for 4. And then Beza. Yeah, Beza seems okay. Can stabilize the ground next turn. And the second Beza also a reason not to attack with the first Beza, to make sure we gain 4 life. Did they top deck a Get Lost? We did see a few. A Requisition Raid, yeah, that's painful. Although Beza's still pretty good here. And we found Monuments, so Monuments just game over now. Same number of cards in graveyard as a library. And that's perfect. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with Keeper. Got removal, card draw, and siege to hopefully start milling. And let's see what we're up against. Black-green can keep up Get Lost. Sure. Maybe the line sequencing was not optimal since I'm unable to cast a double blue counterspell on 3. But happy enough using Get Lost on a Beanstalk. So maybe a black-green kind of dragon ramp deck. They could have enchantment removal, so the siege is not guaranteed to stick around. For now, Overlord for ramp. In a way, Beanstalk can help us in milling the opponent quickly. But this early in the game, I prefer still dealing with it. So I'll get my double blue. Cast Stock Up, leaving blue mana available in case we draw Opt. A mill for 4. And there's Opts and another Siege, or we can grab a counterspell. Really depends if they blow up my enchantment next turn or not. I think I will keep the enchantments. We have a sweeper to keep the board clear, so maybe that's enough interaction. And then I may not want to opt until I play my second enchantment out. And Glissa, that can hit enchantments, but we can also hit it with Get Lost. So that's still fine by me. So I'll keep the opt in hand, since that's 4 more cards if we play another Siege. Another Glissa on top, but I think we'll manage. So we can play Siege, and then if I deal with Glissa now, we get to mill the one that's on top. Seems better than letting them draw it. Okay, so if we get to untap without our opponents removing our enchantments, I really like my position. If they can destroy 1, it's still going to be close. Opponent passes without doing anything, so now we're in great shape. Start with opt to maybe hit my land drop. But yeah, our opponent has seen enough, like we suspected. If we get to untap here, we're in great shape. Opponent's got 34 cards remaining, opt mills for 8, and then reclamation, another cantrip that can mill for 8, and then we're already halfway through. So we get to see this bant mill deck in action, and yeah, it performed quite well, seems relatively well positioned in the best of one meta, since most opponents will still have some creature removal in their deck. Against other control decks, you're also happy to play longer games, since the mill deck will be at an advantage, so it seems relatively well positioned, with a very big asterisk, which is all the red and prowess aggro decks, which will potentially still go underneath you, so if you don't have the perfect draw, you're probably going to get run over before you get to the mid to late game where this strategy really shines. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.